Welcome to the AirCon Vault. Here you can find recordings of the live streams from Erin's audio conference. These are made free thanks to our sponsors. A sound effect, Audio Kinetic, Boom Library, Bright Skull, Dolby, Fmod, Game Audio Learning, Game SoundCon, Kilohertz, Motion Picture Sound Editors, Rev Rooms, Sound Cuts, Sound Warriors, and Airwiggles, the online home for audio creatives. We hope you enjoy the video.
Hey everyone, let me just get started by sharing my screen. So today I'm going to be sharing with you and convincing you why to try to use Reaper subprojects, sharing why I'm obsessed with using them. So yeah, here we go. This is me. If you can't tell, this is my studio. This is where I'm looking. Wish you could see that, but I didn't quite figure out the behind me part. Maybe in my next place. I've been working with Arrival for the last 3.5 years, formerly known as Formosa Interactive, and I've been working in the game industry for about 7 years, and using Reaper for 6. The first time I used Reaper was in like 2017 or 2018, I think 2017, and I hated it, but I revisited it in 2020 when I learned it was sort of the game industry standard, and forced myself to use it on my sound design tests when I was applying for jobs. Strange choice, it took way longer. And then now I'm a Reaper elitist. So classic disclaimer, I don't know what like the official intended purpose for subprojects really are, but I just figured out a way that works well for me in my particular workflow. So I'm sharing that today. It's going to be pretty high level, not super technical, just kind of getting into the basics of it. So for those who are unfamiliar, I'll be mostly using Reaper terminology, which might be confusing for some Pro Tools and other DAW users, but I think you'll be able to follow along, and it will get a little more clear later. But Reaper subprojects are nested projects within a parent project that can be then imported or created as a media item on a track. It'll get less confusing later, but media items are rendered as audio file previews. So basically, every time you save your subproject, it renders out as an audio file of your session into the parent project, kind of like a preview. So we'll get into that later. I mostly use subprojects for organization and efficiency. I've been trying to force my coworkers to use them with me for collaboration, but realistically, it just hasn't been necessary. As far as organization goes, it's really useful for large tasks with a lot of different components, and you can break them down into subcategories. So things like creatures and UI, character abilities, things with like massive amount of tasks. Large projects can also be really heavy on CPU usage. So, introducing performance issues, latency, and crashing, especially if you use a lot of plugin instances, there's loads of video and media files. So splitting up the project can help alleviate some of that stress on the processing. Also, cohesion and reference. Keeping subprojects within a parent project helps kind of keep everything in one place for quick and easy reference to stay in line with other designs, but still like separated and organized and not chaotic. They can also be used for collaboration. Designers working on multiple aspects of a project that share maybe similar types of sounds, maybe like UI, and it requires consistency. Same with designers working on different parts of the same thing, maybe splitting up tasks on a creature or something like that. And collaborating on cinematics maybe, or linear media and music. So for example, if different individuals take on Foley or vehicles and ambience, etc. You can, break it down into the same groupings as you normally would in a cinematic session, but rather than everyone working in the same massive project, they would have their own subproject to work within that then renders a preview of their work to the parent project. So then it's all compiled with everyone else's work, and same kind of goes for collaborating with other musicians who are adding their contributions, where each track can then be a subproject and isolated instances of, let's say somebody's working on percussion and then vocals and strings, and you can kind of, in the parent project, like stack those things. So it's also great for people who are struggling with, like I said, slow, lagging, crashing projects, too many plugin instances, slow, that's never fun when you're trying to work on a big project and it's just like not working with you. Chaotic, messy sessions, and you just want to find a way to better organize things. Maybe you feel overwhelmed by large tasks with a lot of moving parts. Maybe a Jira ticket with like 1 million sub-child tasks. It can feel overwhelming. And maybe you're just, you obsessively compartmentalize. So all of these things check a box for me, I think. All right, so here are some of the ways I've used subprojects. Due to a lot of these things being sensitive client work, I'm not going to be able to show the full real-time project for this part, just some screenshots, but I'll dive into a mock session a little later. So this is the parent project of a creature design that I did for the game Metroid Prime 4. A great use case for me is when I'm designing creatures. I break the tasks out into categories. For example, here you can see I've broken it out into vocals and movement and attacks and whatever else was needed. I personally have it organized so that each category has its own track, but it's not necessary, especially if you're not like stacking designs. You can have everything on one track. I just, like I said, over compartmentalize things. Also, quick aside, there's construction, of course, happening right outside my window. So I'm trying to like talk over it, and I hope you're not hearing it. Just letting you know if you hear weird sounds. So yeah, this also might look a little hectic with all the markers going on, but I just like to be able to like tab through all the asset variations quickly. I think I also had imported descriptions or asset names to the markers so that it was easy to navigate in the region manager. Also, you can then import those markers and regions to your subprojects so you don't have to redo them. Don't know if you knew that, but it's a great little feature. And then if I were to double click on one of these media items, that subproject will then open in a new Reaper tab, much like this. So this is a screenshot of probably about a third of this subproject. I think there was something like 36 asset groupings maybe, I don't know. Personally, I like to design so that each asset has its own little like folder, compartmentalizing once again. So yeah, the sessions can still be big and it goes on, but it feels organized to me. I could have probably broken it down even further, but there is a point where one can have too many subprojects. Too many subprojects can just feel redundant or excessive, so you kind of just need to find your balance of how you're going to break things out and what works for you. So in this session, I have some movement items like jumping and body falls, and each of them have their own material type. There was also like footsteps and things like that earlier in the project. So like I said, can be very large, but I've collapsed it down like this into these little tiny things. You can't really see any tracks because it was just so big. I figured it was better for an overview. But if you can see these little tiny dots underneath the regions, those are my assets, my asset designs. So if you can imagine that if I expand a group, that is what you're seeing within one of these little tiny region sections. Just normal design work. This can go however your designs work, but yeah, this is just how mine look. And then when you hit save, it will begin to render a preview, as I'm calling it, to the parent project from whatever is in between your start and end markers, which will exist on every single subproject that you make. So it's all still pretty high level and maybe nebulous right now with screenshots. So I'm going to open up a session for you. Now let me just stop sharing this really quick. All right, hopefully this is working. So I got a head start on this little music session, let's call it. I created a few sub-projects here already. Maybe I'm going to collaborate with other musicians to compose parts. Maybe I like to work modularly, but let's just think about this in the context of collaboration. So maybe I was sent this project and I need to add my part, which we're gonna call that woodwinds. I'm gonna add woodwinds to this. So I'm gonna create a new track for that, and then also create a new region. So it doesn't matter how long your region is, just highlight or make a time selection or highlight the region area to insert a new subproject. So then you're going to go up here. So I've created a region, I've created a track, or just for me, I'm going to woodwinds. Not sure if you are familiar, but you don't just have to drag to make a time selection. You can also double click the region and it will auto select that area, which will create a very nice, clean sub-project length. So yeah, we're gonna go up here, create a new sub-project under the Insert tab. And this is where you're going into your naming and organizing. It defaults to saving in the media folder, but I personally like to have it at the same level as the parent project, just for visibility so I can see what's going on. So I'm just going to make sure to change that. And also I personally like to name it like the parent project underscore subproject. So again, let's say music examples, the parent project, and woodwinds is my subproject. And then once you hit save, subproject will be created. Oops, this is a good example. So the subproject will be created onto the track that you have selected. I was selected on the pre-master, so I'm just going to slide this down to the one I actually wanted it on. But again, it's not really a problem. So if you can see here, the subproject was created also using whatever is your default new project that is in your settings. I think I took off whatever template I have just for simplicity, so it's a very blank session. So yeah, the highlighted time selection, as I said, will dictate the length of that rendered region. You can always change it to being only what you're currently working on. Let's say like I've only worked on 15 seconds of it. I can slide it to here and it will re-render to that length. If I hit save, never mind, there's nothing in it, so it's, oh, there we go. Yeah, so as you can see, it has shortened the length of the file, but again, you can always change that length. Also keeping in mind that the longer the time selection, the longer the render time upon saving or closing the project, which I have made some very long render times by accident or just not thinking about it. So Don't make my mistake. But yeah, like I said, start and end markers will be automatically placed at the beginning of end of your time selection. And that is essential to the subproject rendering. So don't delete those. And if you do by accident, it's okay. You can, place new markers as long as they follow this format of like equals sign, caps start, and equals end. Yeah, so that's that. Your subproject is now created. You can work within your subproject and update the master session. Let's say you want to listen to everything individually, or you can even just like stack everything to listen to what all that's like together. I'm not sharing audio, but you can imagine this sounds really great all together. All right, so let's see. Let me pop back over. Yeah, so what's the point of this? Maybe this all seems kind of excessive and redundant to you, or maybe not since you're here in this room. But if you have a brain like mine, it feels really good to have an organized session. So subprojects really just like scratch a very particular itch. And it makes it easier for me to work that way. Like when I feel overwhelmed by tasks or large projects, it's really hard for me to like properly work on things. I just feel like a mess. So if you can relate to that, maybe this is helpful. But yeah, just to reiterate some benefits to incorporating this into your workflow. You don't have to worry about messing up someone else's work or not having their plugins because their subproject will always be separate from yours. Having easy access to quickly referencing or borrowing from other designs you've previously worked on is really nice to have. For example, if you're working on some UI and you're like, you need to borrow a couple sounds, you can just pop over to your parent project, open up the subproject, and then just, drag it in real easy. And it's neat, both organization-wise and in the sense that it's honestly a pretty cool and useful feature of Reaper. I really love Reaper subprojects, as you can tell. They have brought me a sense of ease in sessions with a lot of potential for chaos. Big tasks, like I said, used to really overwhelm me, but now all I have to do is just figure out how to break up the project into smaller components. And yeah, I hope that helped paint a picture of how this could be useful to you. I hope it gave you loads of ideas. If you already use subprojects and have really cool tips for me that I'm not already doing, because I'm sure there's plenty, please share. Please let me know. Yeah, thanks.
Hello. That was great, Erin. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Any more questions, folks, just in the Q&A tab. I will start going through some now. So question number one is it possible to collaborate in a Reaper session by giving team members their own subproject and keeping it updated through something like GitHub? Any ideas about this?
This is something that I am curious about myself because I think it's probably possible. I believe there's probably like, then you have like yeah, I think that would make sense because currently we use Dropbox. And so there's always like what do you call it? Like a version management and a version history. So I think that's kind of the same with GitHub. I think that would probably work pretty well and then it would just keep updating with the most current version.
Okay, thank you. Next question. This is a nice one. Which Reaper theme are you using? It's really nice.
Oh, I think it's called Hydra. Let me check. I'm pretty sure it's called Hydra. Where do I find that?
Oh, you know what? I couldn't tell you from the top of my head. Maybe when you select a theme, it will like have one of them selected so you can see which one is currently picked.
I haven't selected a new theme in a long time. I don't know where it is.
If someone can let us know, then we can find out for you.
I'm pretty sure it's called Hydra, though. Okay. Yeah, sorry.
Is it possible to link tracks or parameters from one subproject with tracks parameters from another subproject?
I don't know.
Fair enough.
That really does sound, I'm sure there's somebody who's like a subproject expert who knows the answer to this. Link tracks subparameters. I don't know about real time because, I mean, I guess it's the same as if you're able to do that with any two projects that are open, they would have to be open at the same time. So if you already can do that in just like having two sessions open at the same time, I believe there's no reason why it wouldn't work with subprojects. The only difference with the subproject is that it's like, rendering out that preview to the master. So, I don't see why not. If that's already a possible thing.
I'm completely going off track. I apologize. I wonder, because I know the only way I've kind of ever used two reprojects at the same time is when like they have different inputs and outputs, like maybe sending audio from one into the other and somehow converting that into parameter.
Right.
Parameter control could do something, but yeah, that seems very far fetched. But just a random shower thought I just had.
I do think that there are. I don't use this in my workflow, but I know some people who use kind of sends two different projects. So maybe that would be, I don't know. I'm not giving a real answer. So, but
no, these are probably the most technical questions we've had this conference so far. So I think that's absolutely fine. I have a question for you as well,
definitely probably easy for somebody who's a Reaper like expert to answer, which is not me. I'm just finding my way around.
I have a question, and I do one of the things I really like doing with sound design is I really like using something like Kilohertz or Snappeak with the randomization like modules they have, like within like you modulate pitch randomly, so every time you play it, it sounds different. I'm assuming in a subproject it's almost like you're kind of like bouncing a project in place almost. So like plugins aren't loaded in a subproject in another session, aren't they? Because it's like
correct.
So I don't think that would work.
Yeah. So the session that I had just shared actually was a kind of good example because I created it on a different computer. I created the subprojects on a different computer, and I don't have those same plugins on this computer. So I can still, hear the preview of it and whatnot, and I can still open the session. But obviously, the session won't have the plugins.
Yeah, sure.
But yeah,
that's super useful though. Like, sorry, I'm completely going off track for all the questions. I'm just nerding out myself. But like the amount of times I've been working with people and there's just so much issues in terms of like sharing plugins. And I think I'm on a project right now where I have Pro Q2 and Pro Q4, but the other person has Pro Q3. And it's like, this is so ridiculously annoying. But yeah, like subprojects, I think I should look into to try and find solutions to this. Okay, back to the questions. Sorry, folks, got distracted. Nico asks, is there a way to suppress the render on save and put it on its own shortcut? I find that I'm very spammy Control S person, and those saves, so wanted at times, can eat up a lot of momentum and time.
Yeah, you can turn them off, I believe. I don't remember exactly where it lives, but I was talking with somebody who uses subprojects, and they just completely turn theirs off so that it's a manual thing. I don't know if there's like I don't think there's like a save only every 10 saves or something like that, but Reaper can do basically everything, so I feel like you could probably program that in there. But yeah.
Yeah, one of my favorite comments from last stream was that Reaper can even do your taxes if you try hard enough. George asks, is it possible to retroactively turn existing projects into a subproject of another?
Yes. Awesome. You can import projects into your parent project. The only problem-ish there is that if you're importing it so basically you go into your Explorer, your file Explorer, and you can literally take the Reaper session and drag it into or onto the track that you want it on, and it will create a nested project. The only problem is that it will then save a new version of that if you're importing this project, rather than if you were to create a new one. It's basically, it's duplicating that project, which is kind of good in some ways, but then you have a duplicate, and so
Sure. Okay, thank you. I'll do one more question if that's okay, as we're running low on time. But Andrea asks, what is your favorite method of updating the subprojects in the main project?
What is my favorite method of updating? I'm not sure if I understand the question. Updating the subprojects in the main project?
Well, that's okay. Andrea, maybe you can chat in the Hangout space, as I said afterwards. So
Yeah,
any further
sorry about
questions,
that.
folks, that's okay, don't worry. Any further questions that you may have about subprojects in Reaper, yeah, go to the Hangout space, just at Erin Holmes, and you can catch up about it later. But yes, folks, thank you so much. And Erin, thank you so much for this presentation. It was really, really good. But we'll have to end it there to prep for the next stream, which is uniquely you, finding your strengths in neurodiversity. So we're having a lovely panel with some amazing panelists. It's going to be here on Evergles again. I'll see you all there. And Erin, thank you again so you. Really appreciate this stream. I hope you had a great time, because we had a great time watching it.
Thanks for having me.
Bye, everybody.
See y'all.